welcome to the call. She is a 10-star diamond from a small little town in Washington called Cle. I'll pay you $10 if you know where that is on the map. She is a 3-star diamond coach with, get this, 64 months in Success Club. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Karli Lindor.
Hi guys! Thanks for nailing the city, Keyshawn. You crushed it, Cle, Washington. I am I'm so stoked to be here and honestly so honored to be able to share with you guys. And I'm just like hope that this resonates with every single one of you.
Well, listen, taking a look at your script, I know that it's going to be filled with so many nuggets that people can take and implement right away. So before we jump into your nuggets, why don't you start with your wake up call moment? What was that wake up call moment for you in your coaching journey?
Yes, I love sharing this. So like Keyshawn said, I became a coach back in 2016. Prior to coaching, I dove into like a ton of different jobs. I originally graduated college with an apparel merchandising degree. So not in the health and fitness realm at all. I worked at Starbucks corporate for a brief stint in their design studio and like merchandising studio where we would create like promo sets for different like seasonal displays. And I actually had an aha moment while I was working at Starbucks corporate in downtown Seattle that I still remember to this day. And I talked to my coaches about this and they know all about this story. But we were standing at a meeting and discussing like coffee bean placement and like where the mugs should be on like the shelves for the next promo set. And literally right then and there, although I love coffee, like have my coffee here with me right now, I knew I couldn't be committed or passionate about that work for the next 40 years of my life. I couldn't imagine myself like driving into the city, working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, like passionate about coffee for the rest of my life. It wasn't something that was purposeful enough for me that I could dedicate my life to. So after I graduated college, I actually went off to take a year off and I lived at a ski resort with my now husband. And while I was there, I dove into my yoga practice. And after that year, working at the bar, living up at this ski resort, I had actually saved up enough money to head to India for 2 months and get my yoga teaching certification. And I came back just like stoked on the idea of becoming a full-time yoga teacher and sharing my love of health and wellness with everyone. I had this image that I was going to be like drinking this green juice, like driving my car from studio to studio, like just hyped on like teaching yoga full-time. And a few months in, one problem that I encountered that was kind of a big aha moment for me is yoga teaching really wasn't all I thought it was going to be. I quickly became burnt out. I was hardly making any money, and I even had to get another bartending job on the side to cover the bills that yoga teaching wasn't providing for me. And at this time, I also had to move back in with my parents. So a few months into full-time teaching, yoga teaching, I found my now coach on Instagram. She was talking about how she was coaching people. She also looked really happy and healthy. She did not look burnt out like I had been or frustrated with the industry like I had been. So I simply just reached out to her and asked her for help. And she plugged me into her fitness group and I went all in on the 21-day fix via DVDs, which makes me feel very old. And I did the workouts in my parents' hallway. But I got the best results of my life. I was blown away by the tools that she had given me. I was blown away by the education on proper nutrition that I received that I was never taught in my yoga teacher training and never taught in any form of schooling that I had. And most of all, I was totally surrounded and just blown away by the support that she had given me with this community to like encourage me to not quit on myself. And so that's really when I decided to like step forward and say, hey, I want to go help other people. I want to pay this forward. So since April 2016, I've been hosting fitness groups and paying it forward to other women. So that's kind of where I started.
And I love that you started in the hallway of your parents' house. Like, talk about no excuses. I'm going to get it done. It doesn't matter the space. And now I'm going to show other people how to pay it forward. So your topic is how I stay focused, which clearly you're already beginning to put some of those nuggets in, how you stay relentless and how you crush self-doubt. So why don't you get into some of the bullet points behind that topic?
Yes, I am so excited to share on this topic of crushing self-doubt specifically because I really feel like the journey I've encountered from like leaning on others to build my business, I talk with my hands a lot, so sorry, to build my belief, to owning like my own individual story, I feel like has really been the building blocks for my success. And I love teaching my coaches these practices because ultimately when we focus on our individual message, I really feel like it puts the power back in our own hands to crush our businesses and then speak with authority and passion, which ultimately circles us right back to the topic. It crushes and creates no place for any self-doubt. But as I was creating this call, I was like, okay, I want this call to be actually tactical for people. It's obviously easy to feel motivated after hearing like some inspiring words, how there's no place or room for help for self-doubt if you're going to build your business. But I want you to feel power and motivation, not necessarily like from me, but from your own words and your own story. And this is how we really crush our business and become unstoppable in the long term. So when I first started coaching, I did have to rely on what I call like building my bank of assets. I knew, like I said previously, that the products and the programs worked. I got the best results in my life. But to get into growth mode in my business, I had to start like filling my bank with assets that I could use to lay a proper foundation for how I was going to build my business moving forward. So there's two things I want to talk about just really quickly on how I kind of laid that foundation, that belief that I could go on and crush this business. And the first one, which is awesome, it's such a full circle moment, me sitting here on the National Wake Up Call, because I remember when I was like driving from studio to studio, teaching these yoga classes, working at gyms, I listened to National Wake Up Calls from other coaches who were a couple steps ahead of me in their businesses. And I remember I canceled my Spotify subscription, I turned off the radio, and I submerged myself in other people's success stories, which laid the foundation for my own business. I borrowed that belief from them, saying, okay, and I constantly said this in my head, okay, if she can do it from that story, I can do it. If she can do it from that story, I can do it. And I rewinded all the way back years and years and years, like past National Wake Up Calls, and I just constantly filled my mind with those stories. So that's the first really simple tip. Second thing is, I started filling my feeds, like on my social media, my Instagram and my Facebook, with purpose-driven people and other coaches that I could specifically relate to. So there's a key point here that I kind of want to like dive into. It's really easy to follow a whole bunch of coaches in the network, like any and all Beachbody coaches that you meet, you're following them, you're filling your feed with them. But I not only like followed just a whole bunch of other coaches, but I tried to find coaches and follow coaches who related to me. So if you're a mom in this business, and I challenge my coaches to think about this, follow other successful Beachbody coaches who are moms who might be just a couple steps ahead of you. For me, when I started, I was living with my parents. I was not married. I didn't own a home. I wasn't planning on being a mom anytime soon. And so following mom Beachbody coaches wasn't really as inspiring for me because I couldn't relate to their story as much. So I had to go out and specifically find people who were also like relatable to me and where I was in my life at that point. So I followed a lot of new college grads who were, a couple steps or a couple years ahead of me in the business. I followed other fitness professionals or fitness instructors that became Beachbody coaches. I had to make sure I wasn't filling my feed just with anybody and everybody, but stories about coaches who I could actually relate to, so I could see myself in their shoes 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. So ultimately, it was my responsibility to create an environment where that doubt or that fear of failure wasn't an option. So these were kind of the steps at first that I took to create this bank of assets that I could kind of lean on as I started to find my own footing in the coaching world. But obviously, in order to grow my business, I had to challenge myself to start making my own deposits in my own business. It comes from my own growth, my own story, and success stories from my own clients and my own coaches. So the big focus here is I got crystal clear on my personal story, and I also got super clear on my personal niche or niche. And we'll dive into what that is in a little bit. I found out, or I quickly realized, that when I was trying to talk to everyone or post for everyone, I ended up talking to nobody because I wasn't being specific enough on telling my personal story and what coaching meant to me. So I asked myself these questions, and it really helped me dive in and kind of develop my own story. What was my story? What will my deposits to Beachbody and coaching and my business as a whole be? And how can I serve people through this vessel or this portal of Beachbody and all the amazing tools that they give us? But how can I serve people through that vessel in my own specific purpose-driven way that tends to crush any self-doubt that I may have because I'm so true and so authentic to myself? So those are kind of the questions I asked when I started thinking about, okay, what is my specific story? So I dug in and I focused on what my specific niche was. And I wanted to share a couple things that come to mind when I start thinking about, who my person is or what I'm passionate about. So a couple of these things are weight gain. I've had a huge weight gain journey in my story with Beachbody. Muscle built, eating to fuel my body, scarcity versus an abundance-based mindset in my own fitness journey and why I even choose to work out to begin with, a growth-based mindset, and empowering workout habits. So what I just shared is who I talk to and who I show up and serve and post for. And what this did is it made me become so laser focused on serving my people that I wasn't doubting my capabilities anymore because I wasn't relating my story to anybody else's anymore. Like, this was my own specific story. And if I committed to staying true to me and true to that story that I was passionate about, doubt could not live there. So I ask my coaches these same questions. What is your story with Beachbody? I ask them, how did the workout specifically change their life? How did the community and coaching help them? So when we're confident in the story we're sharing and it's 100% true to us, I really believe that that relentless, that scrappy, that hungry, and that unstoppable vision that we have, it crushes our self-doubt and we become just laser focused on helping our next person. So when I crafted my niche and I focused on my next person, I actually noticed that I didn't really need that bank of assets from others anymore. I started to notice that I could start depositing my own checks in my bank. So, like I said, building your bank of assets, it comes from getting clear on your purpose. And we call this your niche or niche. You can pronounce it either way. So I'm going to give you 3 action items on what you can really focus on to define this niche. I'm going to take a drink of water.
Karli, take a sip because I just want to highlight something that you mentioned. Oftentimes, your coaches talk about be authentic, be yourself. And people are like, I understand what it means, but how do I apply that to myself and to my posting?
Yes.
These questions that Karli just referenced, this is how you make your post about you and find out the people that you are talking to specifically. Mm-hmm. Not everyone's story is the same. Not everyone's story is going to be this dramatic transformation or this weight loss transformation or this weight gain trend. It is whatever you need it to be. So I just wanted to highlight that while you take a little sip. So why don't you jump into some of the action items that people can take away from this?
I love that. And yeah, so a big key part of this is not only like thinking about what your story really looks like, but then defining that so you can go and share it with other people and then help people who have been in your same shoes. So here are the 3 action items. First thing, before we dive into it, I want to remind you guys, you do not need to be like radically different or cool to create your like own unique purpose or your own specific niche. But we do need to know who we're trying to serve and why, so we're not just competing with a sea of other coaches. So let's define what a niche or a niche actually is. It's a segment or a portion of the market as a whole that you specifically focus on to differentiate yourself. And then this last point, I help my coaches actually define their niche. So you can take this and apply this today. So the first thing, and it's 3 steps on defining your niche. The first thing that you can start thinking about, or what I ask my coaches to start thinking about, is I ask them to think about their industry. Now, this is broad. We're all coaches. We're all in the health and wellness realm. So it's going to be pretty similar for all of us. So our industry is probably going to be fitness, health, wellness as a whole. Super simple. That's your industry. Second thing though, I ask them to start thinking about their category within that industry. So a category, for example, could be home workouts. A category could be nutrition, strength training, cross training, weight loss transformation or weight loss in general. Those are a couple of the different categories within the industry of fitness and health and wellness as a whole. All right, the third thing, this is the most fun part, is I ask them to write down their specific expertise or interests within that category. So we're getting specific here, right? We're diving into what am I most passionate about inside this big market, right? So for example, let's say your category was home workouts. That's what you're like most passionate about. I say, okay, if your category is home workouts, maybe your specific expertise or interests could be quick and effective workouts for moms with no time. If your category was nutrition, maybe the specific expertise or interest within nutrition could be nutrition advice for women who are overcoming eating disorders. So freaking specific, but so powerful, such a powerful story to tell. And the person that you speak to is going to feel so seen on a level so much deeper than just like talking about surface level nutrition stuff, right? Another expertise or interest. If your focus in your category, let's say, was strength training, your specific expertise or interest could be empowering workout habits that are focused on growth. So see how those all connect from your category to getting specific on what your interest is inside that category. So I ask my coaches, what is your niche? I'll give you guys an example of what mine is. I help adventurous women build empowering workout habits that are sustainable and focus on growth. That is my niche. As I post, as I share, as I talk on my stories or just show up on social media in general, I think about that woman that I'm speaking to. So you can actually take whatever you figured out that your niche is, and you can plug it into your Instagram bio today to not only remind yourself that that's who you're speaking to, but when new people come to your page, it's not just another health and fitness platform, but it's specific on who you're actually serving within the realm of health and fitness as a whole. All right, I'm going to ask Keyshawn to actually share a graphic where I can give you guys some like little things to actually look at as examples of what I post daily. Thanks, Keyshawn. Okay, so this first one here, and I'll explain these because I know a lot of you guys are just tuning in on audio. This first one is a transformation photo. The first one I shared is without a niche, and then the second one is after I really defined what my niche was. And you can see in this first photo, the caption, although you can't quite see it, I'm just going to kind of explain what the caption was. It was very surface level. It was a 21-day group changed my life. I, found consistency. If you want to join me, you can click the link in my bio or comment below. I talked about how I was happy and healthy. It was very surface level. I didn't dive too much into my story. And you can see I got a handful of likes and I got one comment. The second transformation photo here is when I really defined my niche and started talking to my specific person. In the caption, I actually start talking about how I was always categorized as the skinny girl growing up. I didn't need a workout. People told me that I should eat some French fries or a burger and put some meat on those bones. And I didn't need to learn about nutrition because I was already naturally thin. I even went as far as to put my weight gain journey of 15 pounds over that text, saying, before I weighed 125 pounds and now I proudly weigh 140. So I specifically spoke to my girl and my story that I lived prior to coaching. And you can see here, it got like 4 times the amount of likes than my previous service level transformation photo. I also got 27 comments compared to the original photo that just got 1. And that's just from me diving deeper into speaking to my own person. Okay, this second example here is a reel. I try to recreate, and I'm sure a lot of people are having so much fun with reels. And whenever there's a fun audio that's, going viral, I always try to recreate that reel, but also refocus it and recenter it on serving my specific person. So you can see on here, the text is kind of small, but I talk about things that are specific to my niche. It says, and this is the caption that sits on top of this video, when you work out to be strong, have more energy, support your immune system, clear up your skin, decrease and combat stress, help your brain health and memory, reduce risk of chronic diseases, sleep better, improve your mood, and so much more. So I'm talking and relating this back to my growth-based mindset, empowering workout habits. That's a specific kind of like story that I experience, and that's a big part of my niche. The last example is a viral post example. These are fun posts to share, whether you're resharing somebody's quote or you're creating a quote on your own. And ideally, people are, resharing these in their own stories. And this one, I really tried to, again, relate it back to my niche. I didn't want to just put up another motivational post. I asked myself, how could I relate this back to my audience and my girl that I'm actually wanting to speak to? So this quote that I created says, if we all spent a little more time focused on our protein goal instead of our weight goal, I bet the majority of people know exactly what they want to weigh, but the minority of people know how many grams of protein they should be eating for their body type. So again, it just makes people think, or it relates to people on like a specific level that's true to me. And obviously this isn't going to relate to everybody, but it's going to relate so specifically to my specific person. Okay, you can take that off the screen. Thanks, Keyshawn. So in order to crush self-doubt, we have to be true to ourselves in our own story. I really feel like there's no room for doubt when we are driven by our own unique purpose and why we're a coach to begin with. When I became laser focused and clear on who I was serving and why I was showing up daily, there was no room for doubt in my business. I became focused on the person I speak to and how I help her. So my goal as a coach ultimately is just to show up and to serve that specific person.
I'm like taking notes. Wow, Karli, oh my goodness, thank you so much. And a few things that you mentioned, you mentioned finding something that you can be an expert in, but expert doesn't mean that you are literally the knowledge keeper. It means something that you're passionate about, something that you're interested in. I think that you just really hit the nail on the head with everything that you shared. So thank you so much, Karli.
Yeah. Do you want me to wrap it up?
Yes, please. So the last question I'll ask is, in all of this, in figuring out your niche of people to talk to, in figuring out your story, the things that you're passionate about, how have all of these things kind of played a role in your success?
Yeah, I love that. So ultimately, I feel like none of what I've done would have been possible without the discipline and determination to actually stay true to that story. So you have to have like that discipline and determination. And I always think back to that person that I was, the person 5.5 years ago prior to Beachbody that was struggling with so many of the things I'm not struggling with now. And so I have to believe that like my story is worth telling, and also be disciplined to constantly go back there and consistently share it and think about serving and like talking to that Karli that I was. I have to believe that my people are out there waiting for me to speak to them, but like that determination of actually showing up and consistently searching for them, again, it has to be at the forefront of my business. I literally ask myself this daily, every time I show up on social media, who do I talk to and who do I serve and post for? So I think just like with this clear vision of who I'm speaking to, it's really easy for me to not waver, to never get distracted, and I don't compare or feel any self-doubt because I'm sharing my own specific truth. So I feel like at the end of the day, becoming unstoppable and crushing self-doubt, it starts and it ends with us. And there's no amount of PD books that we can read or podcasts we can listen to. Ultimately, like giving myself permission to be me instead of trying to like fit into the next like coaching mold is what propelled me forward in my business. So I really was able to crush my self-doubt when I stopped focusing on everybody else's stories and I got really focused on just writing my own.
Yes, take the power from you instead of trying to find ways to be motivated by other people. Karli, killed it.
Thanks. Thanks for listening, guys.
All right. Oh my goodness, y'all. That was such a great wake-up call. And I'm going to finish how I started. Carl said to be relentless, scrappy, hungry, unstoppable. How are you applying that to your life? Do you have a personal story? If you don't, how are you being relentless with creating it? How are you being scrappy? How are you staying hungry? How are you unstoppable with creating that personal story? Why are you doing this? Who are you talking to? And who do you serve? Like Karli mentioned, this was such a great wake-up call. I'm looking forward to seeing more people stepping into their authentic power and really sharing more about what your journey is, what your specific story is, so that we can serve more people. Guys, this was your wake-up call. Have an incredible week. And remember, stay relentless, scrappy, hungry, and unstoppable.